Open season. Before Hotel Transylvania came along, Sony had another very popular franchise for some reason. The movie stars a carefree domestic grizzly bear named Boog, played by Martin Lawrence, who is enjoying the domesticated life under the care of park ranger Beth, played by Deborah Messing. But one day, Boog comes across a young deer named Elliot, played by Ashton Kutcher, who is missing an antler and was captured by a hunter. The hunter in question is the nastiest, most feared one of them all, Shaw, played by Gary Sinise. Shaw has a rivalry with Beth and views Boog as just a wild animal. One night, Elliot visits Boog after the bear untied Elliot from the truck. The two then break into a convenience store and crash the place. When the police arrive, Elliot runs away, but Boog is caught and sent back to the house. And I guess the sugar in his system is the equivalent to alcohol? I don't know. The next day, Boog runs into Elliot again after he's running away from Shaw. But Boog attacks Elliot for what happened the other night. Both animals are tranked by Beth and are sent to the wilderness. Much to Boog's anger and dismay, who blames Elliot for all of this. Wanting Boog to spare his life, Elliot claims that he knows the way back to Timberline. Yes, that's the name of the town. Along the way, they come across a group of squirrels, who are Scottish for some reason, and the leader is named McSquizzy. A female deer named Gazelle, whom Elliot falls in love with, as well as the rest of Elliot's herd who had shunned him after he went to town, with the leader being Ian, played by Patrick Warburton. They also come across Buddy the porcupine, two sassy skunks named Rosie and Maria, a group of beavers led by a beaver named Riley, played by Jon Favreau, and two mallard ducks named Serge and Denny. But after a huge flood caused by Boog and Elliot damaging the dam, all the animals are sent to the hunting grounds. Boog and Elliot have a falling out, and the former leaves for Timberline on his own. But after Boog has a run-in with Shaw in his log cabin, he goes back to warn the others. Boog rallies up with the other animals and gets them to fight back against the hunters. The other hunters retreat, but Shaw isn't willing to give up so easily. But Boog defeats him after Elliot sacrificed himself to save Boog. After seeing what was going on with the hunters, Beth comes back to the wild to grab Boog and take him home. But Boog decides he wants to stay, for now he has the freedom that he's been longing for. While this film did spawn 3 sequels and a TV show, it wasn't the greatest. The character designs were a bit off, and the story was kind of inconsistent. Overall, I give this movie a 6 out of 10. Open Season 2. This is where we start to question whether or not Open Season deserved a sequel or not. The first film, while not great, was still solid. This film was not only unnecessary, but very mean-spirited. Also, almost none of the original cast returns for this movie. So the film stars Boog, Elliot, and the rest of the forest animals going to find their friend after he was recaptured by his owners. Mr. Weenie is a small dog that made his appearance in the first movie and wanted to be a wild dog rather than a domestic one. But after he accidentally stumbles upon his previous owners, Bob and Bobby, I'm not kidding, that's their names, they recapture him and take him back home. And it's up to the rest of the wild animals to get him back. Meanwhile, there's a subplot where Elliot and Gazelle try to have their wedding, but Elliot keeps putting it off for stupid reasons. And for some reason, there's a continuity error where Elliot still has his one antler, which he lost at the end of the last movie. Meanwhile, Mr. Weenie comes across a group of other domestic animals, 2 cats, and the rest of them are dogs. The main villain is this young poodle named Fifi, who has a hatred for wild animals. And he's the only thing keeping Mr. Weenie from going back home. Hijinks ensues, and the animals find themselves in an animal water park. But they had to disguise themselves as dogs to get in because it's a dog-only water park. And after more hijinks, they managed to get Mr. Weenie back home. And for some reason, the other domestic animals decide to join him for some reason. Now that we've got the review out of the way, let's talk about how mean-spirited this film was. All the characters were either very selfish, very stupid, or a mixture of both. And trust me when I say this, it's only gonna get worse from there. Overall, I give this movie a 4 out of 10. I do not recommend this one. Open Season 3. I would ask why this movie exists, but I'm already asking myself why the first movie exists. So the film stars Boog and Elliot going to the circus. Gee, does that sound familiar? Actually, this movie came out first, believe it or not. So Boog accidentally wanders into a circus where he comes across another bear named Doug. The two decide to switch places, with Boog joining the circus and Doug joining the forest animals. Meanwhile, Elliot and Gazelle have kids of their own. Yes, they ended up getting married in the end of the second movie, and they have 3 kids together, 2 daughters and 1 son named Elvis. Meanwhile, at the circus, Boog meets a llama named Alistair, as well as a female bear named Ursa, whom Boog has romantic feelings for. Back at the forest, Elliot and the rest of the animals suspect that Boog isn't really Boog, and they set off on a rescue mission to find the real Boog. There's one problem. The circus must put on a really good show or they will close forever. The problem is they gotta get to the circus soon or else it'll head back to Russia. Doug, realizing the error in his ways, apologizes to Boog for tricking him and decides to return to the circus with Alistair, while Ursa joins Boog in the forest and becomes his girlfriend. This movie about animals at a circus has been done to death so many times, and honestly, I was just bored of this one. Overall, I give it a 2 out of 10. Open Season 4, Scared Silly. We now come to the final open season film for now. The reason I say for now is because they're talking about doing a 5th one. And no, I have no intention on watching the animated TV show Call of Nature. I just want to get this series done and over with. Let's get on with the review. The movie stars Elliot telling his animal friends a story about a monster called the werewolf, I guess. Yeah, it's that kind of movie. I just did some research, and it's more specifically called a wailing wampus werewolf. And even though he's in denial about the monster's existence, it even gets Boog on edge. So Boog, Elliot, and a few other animals go out to try and find this wailing wampus werewolf. The animals aren't the only one aware of it, however. The humans of Timberline are also aware of this monster and want to track it down. Shaw, the hunter from the first movie, also returns to hunt down the wailing wampus werewolf. When Shaw runs into Boog, Elliot, and the rest of the animals, this gives him an idea to plot his revenge, leading to another showdown between Shaw and Boog. But not before he chases the animals down a mine, which I think is a reference to the first movie's tie-in video game. But it turns out the wailing wampus werewolf is indeed real and just wants to make friends. You also get this scene of a nightmare-fueled Boog, which is honestly very terrifying. Seriously, I'd be more scared of Boog than some wailing wampus werewolf. And that was Open Season 4. While not nearly as good as the first movie, it is an improvement over the other two. Overall, I give this one a 5 out of 10.